Good to be here before the local government committee. I think this is the first time I've testified on a bill in this committee that did not have to do with fire districts or fire services. So Representative Griffey will certainly appreciate that. Madam Chair, members of the committee, and by the way, I'm Representative Drew Stokesbary for the record. The issues, the public safety issues facing our community, I think, are no secret. We all have stories from friends and families and constituents and small business owners about issues they are facing, and certainly anecdotally, issues seem to be getting worse. There was a column in the Seattle Times just this morning talking about how many police officers have left the city of Seattle. I think a number of folks have signed in to testify who can probably share data better than I can. But I think we can spend a lot of time debating various reasons for some of these issues that are facing our community and what the various solutions might be. But I think making sure that cities have the tools to hire enough police officers to do the job is hopefully something we can all agree on. I appreciate, what I appreciate about this bill is that it doesn't increase taxes on our constituents, but simply shifts funding from the state, whose revenue has increased dramatically over the last decade, towards local governments who, for better or worse, have much less flexibility when it comes to raising revenue. But like I said, I think this is an issue that has touched all of us. It's touched me personally a couple times in the last few months. In the fall, my office, the building that my office was in was burned down by an arsonist, and the police chief has said that that person should have probably been in jail already. There are just not enough resources in the community to address those kinds of things. I had a significant amount of money stolen from me in my small business. Was meeting with Auburn police a couple weeks ago about it, and he had no idea who I was, and was lamenting about how challenging it is to address some of these cases because there's just not enough manpower in these departments. So, but I'm not unique. I'm okay. I recovered the stolen property. The fire that affected my business, didn't affect me nearly as badly as it affected others. But this is just a few tiny examples of what we hear all the time from our constituents. And I'm not going to say that this bill would solve the issue entirely, but I think it would go a long way towards helping restore some of the public's confidence in municipalities' ability to keep our community safe. So really appreciate you hearing the bill and happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Representative Gaynor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Rep. Stokesbury, appreciate you bringing this forward. Can you help me understand the 25 classes line? Do you recall what that's addressing? The 25 basic law enforcement training classes each fiscal year?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Representative Gaynor. I kind of elided over that part of the bill. So, as I mentioned, I think the substance of the bill is providing this sales tax credit for cities to provide funding for officers. But another big bottleneck that we're seeing, and again, I imagine that some of the other folks testifying can speak to this better than I can, but one of the big bottlenecks is, just resources to hire and pay the officers. But another big bottleneck is getting them trained. We hear a lot of stories from our cities and counties about how even when they're able to find qualified bodies, it can still take a really long time for them to have a slot open up at the academy so they can actually go through training and be commissioned officers. And that just puts a further strain on the cities, because not only are you delaying how long it's taking to fill a spot, but oftentimes in order to keep that person and not have him go find some other job, you are putting him on payroll, so you're paying him to do a job but he can't really do 95% of the job. So you're paying these folks to just do things around the margins while you're waiting for a slot at the law enforcement academy to open up. So in addition to providing some funding to cities, it also provides funding to the Criminal Justice Training Commission to add more classes to reduce that wait list.
Thank you.
Representative Berg.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I think I kind of have a two-part question. I'll start where Rep. Gaynor kind of left off, because that piece of the bill was interesting to me as well. But so is the funding to go to, you said increase classes at the Criminal Justice Training Center. Is it to increase their footprint? Because right now, when I go visit there, they've got every classroom packed. It's not a matter of more money, but they actually need more either space or, in my opinion, probably more facilities. So I guess I'll let you answer that one first.
Yeah, really appreciate the question, Representative Berg. I'm assuming that OPR can jump in if I get this wrong, but I believe that this bill, as before you, doesn't address sort of the footprint, really just addresses the number of classes that the commission will offer. But fully aware of some of those footprint and geographic type issues. I know, I believe it's your own senator has a proposal, and maybe this is what you're getting at, to regionalize some of these classes. I'm maybe not the expert on that. I think it's at minimum intriguing, and perhaps it really is a good idea. I don't think that the approach taken in this bill is mutually exclusive to that approach. I think as things progress through the system, if it turns out that we think that it's both a good idea to add more classes and a good idea to regionalize it a bit, I think we can figure that out. I'm certainly not opposed to that approach. I think it sounds to me like there's a lot of merit, although again with the big caveat that I'm not the subject matter expert on this.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And so and I guess that's what I was getting at as well, was just the fact that there are some constraints that money can't buy us out of, right? So it can't, so no matter if we had a funnel of money right now, there's not the ability, unless we're going to start running 24-hour classes, to actually add those classes right now, unless we do expand regionally. But then the other piece of it, talking with some of my local departments, is money is sort of an issue, but it's also just folks wanting to get into the profession. So I guess from your standpoint, though, of this bill, it's purely just, hey, if we give money, then we're going to have folks coming and we'll be able to fill those slots? Or is there any thought that money might not be the only cause?
Well, again, candidly, Representative Berg, and I kind of tried to acknowledge this, and I certainly don't want to undercut my own bill. But candidly, I'm not sure I can promise you that this bill alone will solve the problem. I think there's a lot of issues at play. My perspective is that I think there are some policy issues that are making the profession challenging for officers to want to stay in and new officers to want to join. But I acknowledge political reality that might not be a point of consensus at this point in time. But I think I would argue that providing additional funding to cities so they can provide competitive salaries might not be a sufficient requirement to solve the problem, but it's a necessary requirement to solve the problem. So I would view this bill as maybe not sufficient, but definitely necessary. And so perhaps we need to continue to have more discussions in other areas, but I am hopeful that the idea of providing the jurisdictions with at least the financial resources to offer competitive pay and benefits is something that we can achieve consensus on, even if we can't achieve consensus on some of the other issues that might be, driving folks in and out of the profession.